You ever wonder what really separates the good from the truly great? Well, today we're diving into the architecture of achievement to see how understanding your natural talents can be a total game changer. All right, let's kick things off with a story about two champions. And their story, it uncovers this amazing secret about success. And it's not just about working hard, not at all. It's all about the game you decide to play. Okay, so on one side, you've got Michael Phelps. You know him, right? The legendary Olympic swimmer, more medals than anyone ever. And then on the other side, we have Hicham El Guerrouj, a Moroccan icon, an absolute legend, one of the greatest middle distance runners of all time. So you've got one guy who owned the water and another who owned the track.
So Phelps, he's a towering 6 feet 4 inches tall. I mean, his body just looks like it was built to dominate in the water. Now, El Guerrouj, on the other hand, he's a much more average height, 5'9". So yeah, a pretty big height difference between these two absolute titans of their sports. So here's where it gets interesting. You have these two athletes, totally different sports, 7 inches of height between them. What on earth could they have in common? I promise you, the answer is gonna surprise you. It sounds completely impossible, I know, but it's true. They have the exact same leg length. Just let that sink in for a second. The guy who's 6'4" has the same length legs as the guy who's 5'9". How is that even possible? So, yeah, how is that possible? Well, it all comes down to their unique anatomy. And this is really the core idea of what we're talking about today, finding the right game to play. See, their unique builds gave each of them this massive kind of hidden advantage. Phelps has this super long torso, and for his height, pretty short legs. It basically turns him into a human canoe, perfect for cutting through the water. And El Guerrouj, he's the complete opposite. He's got these long legs and a shorter torso, which is the perfect frame for a powerful, efficient running stride. Okay, just for a second, let's imagine a crazy scenario. What if they switched sports, right? Could their just pure world-class athletic ability make up for the fact that their bodies are, well, mismatched for the other guy's event? Well, for Phelps, it wouldn't be pretty. Even with his insane drive, he'd be pretty much doomed on the track. At his peak, he weighed a whopping 40% more than El Guerrouj. And in distance running, every single extra pound is a curse you have to carry for miles. So the very thing that made him a god in the pool becomes a huge liability on the track. And yeah, it goes both ways. El Guerrouj would have a really tough time in the pool. The average male Olympic gold medalist in swimming is about 6'4". Why? Because you need those long torsos and long arms to pull yourself through the water. El Guerrouj would be at a serious disadvantage before the race even started. So here's the real takeaway. Their greatness wasn't just about hard work. It was about playing a game where their own biology stacked the deck in their favor from day one. They chose the right pond to be a big fish in, you know? And this whole thing brings up a kind of tricky subject, genetics. It can make people uncomfortable. Like, are we just locked into a specific path because of our DNA? Or is there more to it? You know, a lot of people really don't like this idea of biological determinism. It feels restrictive, right? Like our future's already written in stone and there's nothing we can do about it. But honestly, that's a really narrow way of looking at how our genes actually work. There's this physician, Gabor Mate, who puts it perfectly. He says, genes can predispose, but they don't predetermine. I love that. It means they give you a starting point, a natural tilt in one direction, but they absolutely do not decide your final destination. The thing about our genes is their biggest strength can also be their biggest weakness. A specific trait can be a huge leg up in one situation and a serious drawback in another. Just think about someone who's 7 feet tall. That's a massive advantage if you want to play basketball, right? But try being an elite gymnast at that height. Not going to happen. So the key here really is that how good you are at something depends so much on the context. It's the environment, the game you choose to play, that decides if your natural talents actually turn into useful strengths. Okay, so what does this all mean for the rest of us, you know, the ones who aren't Olympic champions? How do we take this really powerful idea and apply it to our own lives, our careers, our habits? The most important thing to remember is this. Your genes are not a life sentence. Think of them more like a treasure map. They don't tell you exactly what you'll find, but they show you where you should probably start digging. They point you toward your own personal areas of opportunity, where your hard work is going to give you the biggest bang for your buck. See, real, meaningful progress happens when you find that perfect sweet spot. It's that overlap between what you're naturally good at and what you're actually excited about doing. When you line those two things up, your ambition with your ability, man, that's when you create the perfect storm for success.
Which leaves us with one last and honestly most important question as we wrap this up. It's the same question that Michael Phelps and Hicham El Guerrouj answered, whether they realized it at the time or not. The real work is about not trying to play a game you weren't built for. It's about finding your game, that environment where your natural skills can really shine. So the question is, how do you find those opportunities? Thanks for tuning in.